Want to increase your income by 308%? Well, I spent over a year making less than $1,000. However, after I figured out the real reasons behind why I was stuck making no money, I was able to make over $30,000 in revenue in just a single month from different online business partnerships and consulting. And these are real lessons I learned after spending nearly 3 years in business, failing to increase my income for years. Not just some regurgitated nonsense, which you'll hear from all these other gurus that try to sell you like low ticket courses. I'm sure on Instagram you've seen, comment the word blank, and then they try to get you into some low ticket community. In fact, I have nothing to sell you. I just want to teach you what I wish I knew in 2022 when I first started making money online. Chapter 1, the motivation paradox. The reason why this is so paradoxical is because motivation does not exist. This magical feeling of motivation you get is simply not real. In fact, actually, it's a few simple things that create that weird feeling of motivation that you might feel once or twice a month. And the way to figure out what those things are is actually to flip motivation on its head. What I mean by this is take the inverse of motivation. What's that? Well, it's having no motivation. And the way you have no motivation and the best way to optimize for it is actually having unclear priorities, which means, well, you don't have anything that actually comes first. Also having no systems, because if you don't have any motivation, you should have no systems. Well, what is that? It's an input, so you do something, and you do it in order, so a process, to get a certain output, so a result. If you don't have that, you're not gonna have any motivation. If you really don't want any motivation, then you should have no vision and no reason to actually get there. So not only do you not know what you're working towards, you don't have any reason to work towards anything in the first place. And finally, you have too much distraction. So add as much things and distraction around you as possible if you don't want to have any motivation. For example, scroll or read. What's going to be more stimulating, honestly? Well, obviously scrolling, and I can talk from personal experience because I've had days where I have 6 or 8 hours of screen time with like half of it being on Instagram Reels. So with that being said, now that you understand what gets no motivation, this should give you a better understanding of what gets you motivation. Because truthfully, the motivation isn't actually motivation to begin with, because you think it just appears and it's there. No, there's clear structured things that you have to do in order to be able to create that motivation. But even then, you have to be able to have the skills to utilize those things in the first place. Well, what skills might these look like? Well, imagine that you're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. Now, yes, there's a solution, but every time you turn it, if you make a random turn, you're not going to be able to get there. Or if you do, it's going to take you a very long time to do so. So how you're going to get around this is simply by defining what skills are you lacking right now. So in other words, what part of the Rubik's Cube do you not understand? Do you know how to solve a part of each side? Okay, that's cool. Now how can we get to solving your first side and then your second and then your third? It's all about figuring out what are you struggling with right now, not what Andrew Tate tells you you're struggling with or one of these other guys. It's what are you struggling with right now, and then optimizing these systems in your day based around your lacking areas in regards to what you want to achieve in your vision for the future. So if you want to get to a certain place in business, you want to be able to have the freedom to do whatever you want, or at least the independence to financially back yourself. Well, you have to figure out, in what areas am I lacking, am I not able to get there? Am I maybe struggling to actually take action when I tell myself I'm going to? Am I too impulsive? And then why? And then once you figure these things out, you just flip it on its head by implementing one of these clear things. Maybe it's a clear priority. Okay, I'm only doing this. What comes first? I'm sleeping no matter what at this time every single night, and so on. And then once you take these things into your life, it's going to be much easier. It's not going to be perfect. This isn't a magical pill. In fact, I'm not too, let's say, consistent in the terms you might think. Not every day is going to be a 10 out of 10. But after you look at it over multiple years time span, as I have, I've done this a few times where I've really had more focus into my business. And even during this shift in my business currently, I've been working on each one of these things. And every time I do that, it makes the work just so much easier. because I don't have anything else to do because I have no distraction. I have a clear vision and reason for getting to that vision. Systems that back my ability to work on this vision, making it easier to do so. And I have a clear priority throughout my day of what's gonna come first no matter what. And then with all of those things together, that helps me have that so-called motivation, because it's not really motivation, it's just a constant reminder of why you've been inspired to take action on the things you are. Because truthfully, there's never gonna be a logical reason for you to do the work in your business. So every time you are lacking this motivation, looking for that logical reasoning, guess what? You're never going to find it. So with that being said, when it comes to being able to have that consistent inspiration and understand what your vision is and being able to tie these things together, that actually brings me to chapter 2, which is intrinsic inspiration. Chapter 2, intrinsic inspiration. And this really comes down to the fact that most of the time when I had made progress in my business and the biggest increase in income, it was really easier than a lot of the times that I made less money. Think about that. It was easier to make more money than it was to make less. Why? Because of this intrinsic inspiration. Now, this doesn't mean every moment was easy. This didn't mean that I had zero procrastination. And this doesn't mean that it's going to be a magic pill to solve all of your procrastination problems. What it does mean though, is that there was a sense of intrinsic value to doing what I was doing. Meaning, I felt like I had a calling to do what I was doing. You have 100% heard that you need some sort of calling or purpose and to follow your intuition for some of these like self-help gurus that you've probably seen online. And to follow your intuition, I'm gonna be honest, that's kind of BS. That's a load of bullshit. And the reason why is because this calling that I told you about isn't really a calling. And this intuition that you have isn't true intuition. And what I mean by this is that your intuition is just derived from a feeling you have. Well, that feeling then comes from an experience because you feel something based off of what you experience. Feeling is just an emotion. Well, what does emotion mean? Emotion is energy in motion. So every experience that happens around you makes certain energy in motion in your mind and in your body. Well, that emotion is just derived from how you perceive that experience, so how you view it, the way you look at it. And then that perception and how you perceive that is only based off your conditioning from the past, from past experiences. Overall, meaning that this intuition or calling that you feel is probably just based off of a perception you developed based on how you were conditioned from your past experiences. As if your experience determines your feelings, then to a certain degree, what intuition really is would just be a set of feelings that you get from certain sensory experiences based on how it conditioned you to behave. Does this mean we don't have free will, or we can't control what we feel, or that we will only do things based on how we got conditioned? No, not necessarily. Let me explain. So simply what I'm saying is that a lot of the time people, when they need a sense of purpose or calling, the problem is that this sense of purpose is simply a feeling that was a momentary impulse. And then guess what? And another 6 months later, you get the same thing. And you realize you've bounced around from whether it was sport to sport or business to business. And personally, I've done that too. Done like 8 different sports in my life. And for the first 2 years of entrepreneurship, 9 different business models. And what I realized is that I wasn't able to commit to one thing because I didn't have clarity on the direction I wanted to take and the character that I needed to develop. And again, even when you do have clarity on that, that's not going to be the magic red pill that's going to show you all truth in the world and solve your problems, but it will be the next step to growing your character and getting closer to being able to have that so-called motivation, meaning you can increase your income more easily and effortlessly, simply because of the fact that you now have clarity on the direction you're going to take, as well as an understanding of what your priorities actually are, just as we talked about before. So with that being said, once you have done that, now you need to start identifying in what lacking areas, well, are you lacking, so that way you can start setting up your character, meaning the way you behave in a way that aligns with that end goal and vision. Which leads me to chapter 3, the vision's character. Now take a second to understand what the vision really is for you. It's not going to be some set in stone, dead set thing. And it's also honestly going to constantly be changed based off of your experiences and how you interpret them, as well as the stories you tell yourself about those. With that being said, it doesn't immediately change in the moment, and it's not some fleeting thing which is out of your control. Now this may seem a little confusing at first, but look at it like this. Imagine focusing through a window on a raindrop that's just slowly falling down the other side. And now imagine looking through that same window, but instead focusing on that beautiful sunset all the way out in the distance. Well, that's the difference between your motivation and how you feel in the moment versus the vision you're looking for. The thing is that vision is not nearly as close, which means you can't grasp it as easily. But the thing is it's more consistent, therefore more reliable. But you're not gonna see that same one little raindrop really ever again, although it is a lot closer and a bit more tangible. That's again exactly the difference between your motivation and your vision for the future. And then what you need to figure out is, who do you need to become in order to achieve that vision? Get to the point where you're the type of person, your beliefs, traits, and skills that allow you to accomplish that vision in the future. So what you can do right now is reflect on specifically these three categories: your beliefs, traits, and skills, which means the truths you hold about the world and yourself, your beliefs, how you behave. You could say, like your current impulses, or things that are a little less tangible than a skill set, your traits. And then your skills are just a set of actions that you do. So leadership, that can be a skill set of a bunch of micro skills, which you can then further in the future. So you want to start thinking about and genuinely asking yourself, in what areas do you fall short of the type of person that you need to become in order to achieve that vision? And the best way to figure who that person is by thinking about it like a video game character. In video games, to be able to pass a certain level or defeat a certain boss, you're gonna need to be able to be prepared in the type of person who can pass that level or beat that boss, just like in entrepreneurship. And to being able to increase your income, look at somebody who's in the position you wanna be and has done it the way that you want it to be done. And then analyze what beliefs, traits, and skills do they hold and that seem significant to them. And then reflect that onto, in what areas do you fall short right now. Notice how I haven't really been talking about directly, okay, this is exactly how you sell and how you make money in the way that most of these YouTubers might tell you. The reason I'm not doing that is because truthfully, that's not what matters. You shouldn't be trying to make money. Instead, you should be trying to develop your character in a way that aligns with growing it to be the type of person that can achieve the vision that you have. Which leads me directly to chapter 4, stop making money. What I mean by this is not that you should actually stop making money. I mean, personally, I've gotten to the point of pretty much financial independence, and I can tell you it's much better than having to worry about not even being able to pay for half a gallon of gas. With that being said, is that yes, I know you want to increase your income. This is probably something that you've been really stressed about as of recently. However, it's almost, even though it seems counterintuitive, not the right idea to focus on that outcome and focus and identify yourself with not being able to get there and not being there, but really needing that. Because what it does is it puts emotional strain on every tiny little micro decision and behavior that might allow you to get there. Instead, what you need to do is create a clear plan on how to build the right character to then be able to achieve that vision, and as a consequence, money will start flowing in because you're the type of person who can achieve the goals you have. You have to understand that making money doesn't change you, rather you change and then you make the money. People always think they need this materialistic stuff around them. Once they see something around them change, that's when they change, because they identify themselves with a certain label. Oh, I'm just not good at this. Or I am this type of person. I am not a math person, I'm a math person. and these sorts of things. Or for example, I would always identify myself in the past because I was told by other people that I'm such a person who judges so much. I judge people all the time, when in reality, I could choose to tell myself that and that I'm just stuck and I'm never going to be able to change. Or I can tell myself that that could have been something that happened in the past, but figure out how can I grow, in what areas do I genuinely need to change and grow in to get to the point of achieving the goals that I have. And at the end of the day, if a certain belief or behavioral pattern didn't serve me, then I could choose not to enact on that and therefore not be that type of person. And you need to figure out what behavior, so thought, word, decision, or actions you do that stop you from getting to that next level, simply by sitting there and just analyzing it. Well, how are you gonna do that? I would just define and then continue to refine the character that you need to become in order to achieve the goals that you have and get to that end vision of yours, which again, remember, you're gonna wanna check back in with because it can and will change as you experience new things. Well, why should you do this anyways? Well, it's because so you can get to that vision, you can get to that higher quality of life, and you can actually start making the money you wanted. Now, that might not be what you wanted to hear, but this is the truth. Focusing on these things that are slow and steady and hard tasks and more of the stuff that has to deal with your own mind and conquering it is truly what's going to make the difference. Not some sales script or saying that, oh yeah, you're right, your niche actually doesn't work, or yeah, you need to change your offer, because truthfully, that's not the case. With that being said, if you want more access to me, as well as future resources to help you increase your income and make more sales in your business, click the top link in the description. Just follow me on Instagram, completely for free. I'm gonna be sharing stuff on there privately with all my followers. And if you ever wanna shoot me a DM, I'm happy to help. I've already helped hundreds of other guys on there. Peace.